Hi everyone. We start with business and commercial knowledge. Let me introduce this topic to you. That's a starting point anyway. It is what is business and commercial knowledge and what are the domains, what are the areas of business and commercial knowledge is what we are going to be looking at. Plus we are going to be looking at why is it important for a chartered accountant to know this and how do you enhance your BCK quotient. One more new one, like your IQ and EQ, we have BQ. Okay, so then we have a BCK quotient. And then we must understand how the business is different from other activities of a human being, whether it is in the form of employment, whether it is in the form of profession or any other activity of a human being. And then you're going to distinguish between the different types of organizations that we know about. The introduction to the BCK, which is basically we are going to say that a lot of human activities are there. We do lots of things during the day, but there are certain activities which are focusing on business, and there are some which is those activities which focus on the business are the ones which we call as the activities relating to business and commercial knowledge. So we have something like where we earn income and we also spend, isn't it? So where are we spending on? On those items which are produced by business and commerce. So business and commerce basically contain lot of activities like production, distribution. These we call as the functions in a business, isn't it? There is also buying and selling of goods and services. So what do? We work as employees or as professionals or as freelancers or as entrepreneurs in the world, and then our world of work is normally business organizations, or we spend to purchase the goods and services which come from these business organizations. Either way, we are connected through the business organizations. And these, you must remember that goods don't come to us directly, they come through middlemen, right? So how that works also we'll be looking at. So let us look at this table 1 in your module has given an overview as to what are those items which is part of the BCK domains, as we call it. So what are those? One is the activities. What activities? We are talking about manufacturing activity, trading activity, all the different activities that a business does, isn't it? Then we have the scale. So you can have a small scale business, you can have medium scale, you can have a large scale, you can have micro scale, then you can have multinational also. Then geographic. Geographic in terms of, again, it can be multinational across nations, or it can be restricted to a particular area only. Ownership. Ownership now can be a single person or a joint, that is one or more partners, or it could be a huge company like a public listed company like Reliance or Tata's or something, right? Then we are talking about different markets. These are all part of business, right? So markets in the sense, where do you get your resources from and where do you sell them? Both comprise markets, isn't it? Then you have stakeholders. Stakeholders who are internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Internal as in employees, promoters, entrepreneurs, and external as in you have your suppliers, customers, you have government, you've got so many people on whom the company does not have control, right? Then you have different functions like production, marketing, inventory, etc., etc. Those are also part of business. The focus could be for one company, or it could be across the entire business, or it could be one unit or one division, or it could be one function, isn't it? So that could be one area of operation that we are talking about. Then normally what concerns do you have? You will say, of course, growth. Then we have profitability. But first step when you start a business is to survive, isn't it? Then different modes are there. The modes of business would be, you have the traditional, the mom and pop shops or the brick and mortar shops. There are different ways of calling it. Basically, your retailer whom you have as a shop next to your house. That is your traditional method. And today's modern method is what? You have your online, isn't it? So you have e-commerce. You've got different ways of doing things. Then you have underlying disciplines. So for business, what all you need to know? You need to know economics, law, accounts, and a whole bunch of other things. So all of this become part of the BCK domain. So what we have seen in our first introduction is the domains of business and commercial knowledge is pretty vast. What do I mean by that? What is a domain? Domain is a specified area of knowledge or sphere of knowledge. Oxford Online Dictionary defines it as a specified sphere of knowledge, an area of knowledge, right? So domain in business, what would you say? It is very vast, isn't it? It's eclectic. I'll come to it in a minute. And then ever evolving and ever expanding. So what do you mean by BCK is vast? BCK is vast meaning it includes manufacturing, trading, and even services. It includes a whole bunch of things like even retail trade. You need to know. You need to know manufacturing. You need to know production. We saw what all areas it undertakes, isn't it? So even in retail trade, what all you need to know? You need to know the different forms of retail trade. What do you mean? I said no, brick and mortar, traditional forms. Then you have got the e-commerce forms. Then there are other forms also. So lots of things are there even in the retailer platform. What all they do, what all functions they perform, even that is very vast. Online retailing provides 24/7 convenience. Services, apart from what they are doing for the customers, they are also providing services to wholesaler and to producers also, because they are doing that middle function which they need to do, isn't it? Now it is eclectic is what we said. What does that even mean? It means that it goes across disciplines. Again, what does that mean? Madam, don't talk jargon, right? So what you should think is that across disciplines means it comprises marketing, accounting, finance, operations. You know what will give you an idea? If you look at an MBA, what options you get, it covers everything, right? So it even economics, ethics, finance, operations, human behavior, HR, everything is covered, right? So that is what we mean by multidisciplinary. And each discipline will have its own jargon, that specific set of words which only that discipline has, right? And that becomes part of the BCK vocabulary. The example we can give, some of the examples which is given in your module, I'll pick from there. One is strategy. Strategy comes from the military. It comes from the word strategos. Okay, that is each general will think as to what the other part, that the other enemy part will be doing, and accordingly they will change their plans and strategize. Got it? So that is one part. So that they win ultimately. Same way in business also you have. So this has come from the military. Same way logistics. Logistics means you have to move the troops, move the services, move the equipment, move everything for the troops from one place to another depending on the area of operation, isn't it? Similarly, in business, when we say inbound logistics, it means movement of those raw materials which come for the organization for producing something. And outbound logistics is when the organization has to send out the goods for sale. This comes from again military. Then we have bulls. Bulls is a biology term, isn't it? So bulls, why we call them bulls? Because this is coming in stock market mainly. Bulls and bears, we use it in stock market. In stock market, what happens is there's always a competition between the bulls and bears. Bulls are the people who, ensure that the prices of the stocks go up. So they keep on building up the stock prices through building a buy pressure. They keep on buying and they make it look very optimistic, and they will make it look that the economy in the market is always going to do well. While what do the bears do? Bears do exactly the opposite. And both of this comes from biology, isn't it? So these are the examples which they have given. I just explained to you. Now, BCK is also ever evolving. Evolving means what? It keep on changing. Changing why? Because the things around us keep on changing. That's why. So then here what happens is domains also evolve and change. Example is your ICT or information communication technology. You look at mobiles. Every single day there is a change, isn't it? You look at laptop. You look at any technology. Every day you have old things going and then new things coming. So effectively old businesses will go and the old methods of doing business will also go. Earlier performance appraisal used to be how? You would have a situation where the senior person will just look at the junior and then decide what is the appropriate thing. Today we have got huge amount of techniques for doing performance appraisal, isn't it? Then you have emergence of new businesses and you have also newer ways of doing the same business, and changes may be aided or impeded. Changes may be helped along, aided, impeded, obstructed by changes in technology. Because of changes in technology, there could be other changes which will happen, or it may happen that because of technology change may not happen. So both ways is possible. And the rate of knowledge obsolescence is high, meaning what? Things get outdated very fast. So yesterday I knew Companies Act 1956. Will that help me today? No, because today we are in Companies Act 2013. And then 2013 also has got amended twice. So then I need to update myself, otherwise my knowledge will become obsolete. Now, what is the importance of this for chartered accountant? Why should you know? Basically, you are a custodian of the nation's resources. How? Because you are the ones who are going to be checking whether financially people are saying things properly, isn't it? So, you are supposed to put in place a proper system for ensuring that accounting and reporting is fair and truthful. Correct? And why do you do that? Because society is depending on what you are saying, and you are reporting society's resources, how they are being used. Correct? And then business and commercial sector is basically where the chartered accountants are doing all their work, isn't it? And BCK makes them more aware and responsive. They will be becoming more aware what are all the corners which they need to look at. So each business also, you must remember, has its own peculiarities. So if I am in the paint industry, do I know everything about the paint industry? Is only one aspect. But can I also look at pharma with the same brush? No, because there is a difference between the pharma industry and the paint industry. Also the laws pertaining to paint industry and pharma industry, though the basic laws won't be different, but there will be some specific laws pertaining to paint industry, some other specific laws which are pertaining to the pharma industry. So you have to understand the laws and then work accordingly. So this you must remember. Why? Because your audit, when you do, you have to conduct it diligently, meaning with due care, and you must understand all the nuances, all the effects of various laws and all the corners that you need to look at. You need to do it properly. Now, getting conversant with an updating BCK. One is, it is vast, eclectic and ever expanding and ever evolving is what we said. This is important for the successful education career as a chartered accountant. But there's a natural fear, no? What if you don't know commerce? What if you are not a commerce graduate? I am a science graduate. Can I still handle all this? The answer is yes. How? You have to work on it little bit. Right? Like what? You have to enhance what you call as the BCK quotient or BQ. Right? So what is BQ? Basically what we are saying is a business related knowledge you need to understand. You need to exercise your mind and get yourself to that level where you understand business related or knowledge is the only word, because that covers everything, right? So for that, what do? Self-assurance. First thing is, how do you enhance self-assurance? You should know that everywhere business is there. We are encountering it every day. We are doing on a daily basis some business or the other. How? We purchase and sell, no? So that is part of doing business only, isn't it? So when we are consumers also, we are part of the business. So I am not a commerce graduate. Is that a handicap? No. If you don't know, if you have science, you should use technology to cross over to business. If you, let's say you have studied humanities, still nothing is lost. Because economics you know, right? History you know, history of daily life, geography you know. So there are lots of things which you can use to help you to cross over to the other aspects. So nobody knows everything effectively, right? So you use what you know to go on to what you don't know. Observation and experience are the best guides is the next point that is being made. That means it is not enough to only know, no, you should see around you what is happening. Read the articles in the newspaper, TV, news, business news, markets, malls, everywhere there is business. So if we are aware about all this and we pay attention to each of this, you will be able to get whatever information you require. And we have 6 honest serving men. What are they? That is, this is Rudyard Kipling has said this in one of his poetries, and he says, they taught me all I knew. Which are they? What and why and when and how and where and who. So if we do all of these questions, we'll easily know all about business. Also, practice and improvement via reflective thinking leads to perfection. What does that even mean? So basically, you must understand and then you must put it into practice and then check whether you have understood it thoroughly, then improve and then think over, organize our readings, viewings, listenings, etc. Right? Now we have understood how vast the BCK domain is and where the chartered accountants comes in. And now we will go on to what are the human activities which result in business or which have an impact on business. So there are both economic and non-economic activities, right? So in our waking lives, in our day-to-day lives, we are always doing something or the other. And today what we talk about is work-life balance. That is, you have to have a family life also and you should not be only working 24/7. All those things also we talk about, right? Though there is a motive. Why do we do any activity? Mainly we do activities because we want to have a good livelihood. We need to survive in this world. Without money we cannot survive. A variety of motives, however, is also attributed non-economic. So is it always about money? The answer is no. One is economic activities wherein we say, what do I get in return? What is in it for me? Or basically what we are saying is what way my interests will be served, isn't it? The non-economic activities has got more to do with how is it going to help everybody. It is emotional, right? And is it going to benefit the society? So human engagements can be a mixture of both self-related and non-self-related. It could be personal, it could be recreational, it could be charity, it could be a whole bunch of things bundled together. So there is a beautiful chart given in your module which you can go through. This gives a detailed description of the activities and it also talks to you about the economic dimension as well as the non-economic dimension. Investors and employees may not work in this for material gain, and the motive or intent behind any activity therefore can be either economic or non-economic. What is the distinguishing characteristics of economic activities? Basically you will be dealing with money. In short, in brief, if I tell you. So how does that work? One is income generating. It has to be productive. There has to be consumption. All of that is economic activity. We'll see some more. So what is income generating? That is, you are working. So you get money, or you have some asset. You rent it out. So you get money, correct? Or you are investing in a business. So you are an entrepreneur. So you are doing some business, right? So it may not be in the form of money only. So a landowner may tell the tiller that I will give you some goods instead of, so if I am renting out or if I am doing some work on the farm, I may not get some money directly. Instead I may get some food grades. That's also income only, right? And the factors earn as per their contribution to the production. So income generation happens in the process of production. Then there's something called productive. What is productive? Earning of all livelihood implies that there is participation of the process of production. So even hunting or gathering or farming or writing of software, everything is a productive activity. Production can be for subsistence, that is for ourselves. We are producing some goods, or it can be because you want to sell it in the market. Then you have got consumption, which is also an economic activity. That is basically the demand side. Till now we were talking about the supply side, isn't it? So now we are coming to the demand side. And then there's one more productive activity or economic activity, what we call, which is savings, investment and wealth. So unspent income is basically savings, isn't it? So when you keep away the money for future use, that is unspent income. And then financial sector also, what they do is they take these savings from the individuals and then they put it in other investments so that there is more generation of wealth. So business is an economic activity is what we are saying, more or less, correct? There's a 3-tier definition, means 3 levels of defining business. So business can be defined as an economic activity. Therefore, that comprises the entire gamut of activities like production, distribution, marketing, trading. It could be anything. So would you say that agriculture is an industry? And would you say it is a business? It depends on why you do the agriculture. Is it for yourself or you're doing it for selling things in the market? So depending on that, you will define whether that agriculture is an industry or not. But what about the agricultural processing? That is definitely an industry, isn't it? Though it is the agricultural produce which is being used, it is definitely an industry. So business basically refers to all types of activities. It could be real estate, it could be retail, it could be IT, it could be anything. And business can be defined as one's usual occupation. For what? For creating something or owning something or some organization you're operating, right? So then the question that comes is, how do we understand this? There's a very beautiful chart in the module which tells you how you define the business. Is it the broadest term or in the intermediate term or in the micro level? So the first one what we talked about is a very broad way. Second one is a medium way. It is neither too broad nor too mini. And the third one is very, very directly related to the person as an individual. So what are the distinguishing characteristics of a business? First is considering other economic occupations. One is, it is employment, isn't it? There is a service contract between an employee and employer. Meaning what? When you join a company, you will have an agreement with the employer. Correct? So that is called a service contract. And this contract tells you exactly what you are supposed to do, meaning your job description. And it also tells you how much you will get periodically. Periodically, normally it is monthly, right? It also there is a method of selection, recruitment and selection. That is, they will first advertise in the paper. They'll tell you to apply. And then they will actually, depending on the persons who have come for the interview, they will select, isn't it? So this part, they also will, is one of the parts of the employment. Then while recruiting, they would have said minimum qualification and work experience required is what. What about freshers? All that they will be mentioning. Next aspect is profession. That is one kind of business, isn't it? So where a professional like a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary, they will be rendering services of specialized nature, which requires certain qualifications. So if you want to become a practicing chartered accountant, you should have passed the chartered accountant's examination up to the finals and then done all the training requirements and get the membership certificate and then the COP, and then you will be allowed to practice independently, isn't it? So what are the different areas? Lots of areas. You have architecture, you have company secretary, you've got law, you've got accountancy, a whole bunch of things. So profession, we said. So professionalism is what? Basically it is associated with perfectionism, meaning a professional is supposed to do his or her job perfectly. How come? Because they are trained in a particular activity to do it with integrity and ethics. They are held in a very high social esteem and they have got a huge status. They have got given a lot of respect. There is a distinction between a business, a profession and an employment. Business means a person will be actually running his own business, isn't it? So it's an entrepreneurship. Profession means we are rendering a service and for that we have been qualified specifically. And the third is an employment where you become part of or you're employed by a particular businessman to do a particular job. So the points of difference are given which based on whatever we have discussed, it is pretty clear, isn't it? So I have written meaning, mode of establishment, then source of livelihood, etc. So you can go through and it is pretty easy to follow. One is a job creator, he is not a job seeker. The businessmen, when we talk about, they are job creators and they provide the momentum to economic growth. Why? They create new things, isn't it? So they are increasing the GDP, the gross domestic product of the country. What is GDP? GDP means the value of all the goods and services that have been produced in a country for a particular period of time. And business output contributes towards GDP and economic growth. And that's why entrepreneurs are considered to be a different class of people because they contribute directly to the economy. And growth implies merely increase in GDP numbers. While economic development, when we say, what does it mean? It is economy's capabilities is spread and it also improves the quality of lives of the people. So business brings development and businessmen are referred to as entrepreneurs. They've got very specific skills and they are more into problem solving. They want to get more and more opportunities and they seek that through creativity and innovation. So one thing that we need to remember is business is investment intensive, meaning lot of investment is required, isn't it? So one thing that could be a barrier to start a business could be lack of capital. And then gestation and uncertainty. Gestation means you start a business but immediately you can't say that it will take off, isn't it? So there's a period of establishment of the business and the business to really take off. And there's a lot of uncertainty also. Things can change pretty fast and there could be problems too. Apart from this, it is a systematic, organized and efficiency oriented activity. Meaning what? Meaning, see, you are consciously, you don't just do something, isn't it? You are consciously creating a system of production. And you have a lot of specialized functions. It is not straightforward and simple and do whatever you want whenever. You have to have specific systems in place. And business like means a person who is doing things very efficiently. Even in his personal life probably he'll do things very efficiently. So in Oxford Dictionary it says carrying out tasks efficiently without wasting time or being distracted by personal or other concerns. That is what a businessman is. He's systematic, he's practical. So that is what a business is. So it is systematic in that you can't be haphazard, you can't just do whatever. You have to have a proper system, an integrated, unified whole. Right? Then you have objective oriented. You just don't do business just like that. You have a specific objective in mind. It could be maximization of profits, for organizing production, for whatever the case may be. And ideal is sustainable development. Sustainable development means what? You do things in such a way that tomorrow also the people will have the resources. You don't do such a way that all your resources is destroyed. Like you see people who are doing agriculture and you will see that they are literally destroying the land, isn't it, by doing massive agriculture of one kind only. While earlier agriculture used to be productive, it used to be highly profitable. How come? Because they used to not think of it only in terms of commercially producing so much, isn't it? It used to be a combination of so many products, and they used to ensure that the land, which is your main key, will not get destroyed in the process. So you have to take care of nature in order for it to take care of you. So you have the simultaneous pursuit of profitability and people well-being and planet sustainability put together. You must go for profits, but keep in mind that the people are important, and you must also keep in mind that these resources are limited and you have to use it, and the next generation also needs it. So you have to keep that also in mind. So there's a diagram given in the module for this which you can go through. So basically we are saying what are the objectives of business. Objectives of business, one is it is interdependent. That is, you are not individual on its own. You are dependent on all your inputs of business, that is your factors of production, and you are also depending on the sale. So you are depending on customers. Then you are also looking at multiple stakeholders. Multiple stakeholders, we talked about internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. No? What is the difference between the two? Internal stakeholders means those people who can be controlled by the businessman, while external is that which is beyond his control. Both have an impact on the business. Then another characteristic is that it depends on the amount of profit that you are looking at. Primacy of the customer. Customer is the king. Customer is the most important person. And performance is necessary if you want to have profits. There are different types of objectives that we look at in business. One is of course economic, your profitability. Second is organic objectives. Organic in the sense, how much do I want to grow? Am I only looking at survival? Am I looking at growth on my own, or should I merge with somebody else to grow? All kinds of decision making is required. Third is social responsibility. We are not living on our own, no. We are living in society, isn't it? So what we call as corporate citizenship is also important. That is, corporate or the businessman or the business itself is part of society. So they should also be working towards the benefit of the society. Then we have legal, ethical and environmental objectives. So that is also critical to remember. That is, legally you have to follow the law. Ethical meaning you have to have certain basic ethics in life, and just like you have as an individual, the business also should have. And environment, you should not do anything which will destroy the environment. So you see that you have lots of objectives in business. So when you assess the business, you have to look at the entire bunch together. You can't look only in terms of the economic returns, isn't it? You must also think in terms of social, ecological, ethical, all sorts of objectives. So when we talk about performance, we are not only looking at profits, we look at much more than that today. We look at environment objectives, whether it's being met. Then we look at sustainability objectives, whether it is being met. Each of this has a report. So performance standards are kept in place for each of this. Then next topic which we are going to be looking at within this chapter is all about the forms of business organization. Business ownership is a bundle of rights. That's what they say. What do you mean by that statement? Basically, rights come because of what? Because a person has invested money in it, isn't it? So important right which is associated to business ownership is the right to dispose of. That is, you want to sell, you can sell. That is what we are saying, right? And we are saying further that you can transfer the business to somebody else, isn't it? So then, including transfer of ownership, whether it could be voluntary or it could be because of the death of the owner. So it could be by succession. So business may be owned singly or it could be owned jointly also. That is what we are saying. So it could be organized as a proprietary concern or as a corporate concern. So we will be seeing the different forms of business organization, starting with sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship, single person running the business. You see it all around you, isn't it? So you have this person who starts a shop, let's say. So that person is an entrepreneur, an economic hero. Why? Because they create GDP. That's what we say. They are a single individual who is organizing production, uses his own creativity, ingenuity, right? And normally it is small scale. It is not different from self-employment, right? They may not be even registered as a macro or small scale business enterprise or industry. And then local retailers, what you're seeing, your roadside shops, even your street vendors are all part of this. They enjoy the people's trust because it's always a one-on-one dealing. And then they provide personalized services. This is an unorganized or informal sector of the economy. Collectively, but they contribute tremendously to the national economy. Numerically also they are the largest, because if you see even in one street how many people are there who are doing business, you will be surprised, isn't it? I actually count, you will be surprised at the numbers that we are looking at. And collective contribution to the GDP is also very high, including for employment is very high, and even for exports. There's also another indirect contribution. Direct contribution we can see, but there's an indirect contribution. In what sense? They may be suppliers to bigger enterprises. The problem that you will face here is their products are not treated well, because they have said, it's local. It may not be as good, as a branded one. Then you have working conditions in these enterprises which is pretty poor, because ultimately everything is on that one person, isn't it? They also have a hire and fire policy. I don't like you, out you go. Lack employee welfare, lack systems. But that actually can work both ways. You don't like an employee, you throw them out is one aspect. But it may be also that you treat the employee very well, which you may not have in bigger enterprises. And you may lack systems to effectively deal with social concerns or environmental concerns. Again, two sides of the coin. On one side, you may feel that they are not integrated, they don't bother about society. On the other hand, there is a personalized touch. So they may be doing social benefit in some other way. Fate of the enterprise, however, is linked directly to the owner, because there is a one person individual who is dealing with it, isn't it? Then another issue that he may be facing is he is relying on his own personal savings and assets for initial capital. You may be able to get bank finance, but it is unlikely. You may get microfinance, again unlikely. Business facilitators who may assist the individual in obtaining finance and other help is also there. Plus all the profits of the enterprise accrue to the sole proprietor. So that way it is very, you are more interested, because you are directly going to get all the money which you earn. When you get more return, it means that the risks are higher. So what are the features of sole proprietorship based on whatever we discussed? One is you are your own boss. Second is you are having your own capital, you only provide the capital. Therefore, visibility of the owner is higher and you get specialized services, personalized services. You are the sole bearer of risks and unlimited liability, therefore. And the fate of the concern or the fate of the organization depends on the fate of the individual. Succession of ownership, question mark, because you don't know whether this person has any succession thought in his mind or not. Now you have the other form of business, which is Hindu undivided family business. How does this work? Basically, I'll tell you how the structure is. Then it's very easy to figure it out. Daughters are not included. Entity is formed automatically who are members of a common ancestry. That includes wives and daughters, And then it says that whoever is formed by a group of people who do not constitute a family, they cannot form it. So it is all part of the same group of people, right? It's a separate entity status under the Income Tax Act. Cannot earn income from salary. HUF cannot earn income from salary. Now the point is like this. How it works is the father, the grandfather, then the father and the son. These three are the main people. Their wives, their daughters are also included. They all become co-partners. The family members are the automatic co-owners or co-partners, and they are by birth. So it doesn't happen by somebody being inducted into the family. It happens because of birth. That is what you need to remember. Now, how it happens is, these people who are part of the family, only 3 generations are allowed. The 4th generation doesn't become, till the first person goes, the first generation goes, the 4th generation will not get included. It is formed by birth in a family. Family pools in the resources. There's a lot of benefit to society because of family involvement. They are called co-owners or co-partners because of birth. Decision making is extremely quick. You must remember the oldest male member is called the Karta, and this Karta becomes unlimitedly liable because he is a person who takes all the decisions. And the fate as a going concern, there is no problem because it's a continuous big family which is dealing with the whole thing. Succession of ownership also is not an issue in this particular case. There is another kind of business which is partnership, isn't it? Now this is very well known to you because you are dealing with accounts all the time. And here, partnership, how does it work? It implies contractual co-ownership of business. What does that even mean? Meaning contractual means there is an agreement. Co-ownership means there are more than one person. There are at least 2 persons to form a partnership. So there are 2 or more persons who enter into an agreement to do business and share the profits or maybe even losses of the business. So that business may be carried on by any one partner, by all of them, or by all of them, or by one of them, or for all. Either way it can be. And the contract is an agreement enforceable at law. It is also called a deed. That is your key of partnership. The basic key of partnership is the agency. That is, one partner is working for the benefit of all. One partner becomes an agent for the other. So that is called the mutual agency. We'll come to it in a minute. As a verbal or written agreement could be there. It is not necessary that it's a written agreement. It may be registered in India under the Indian Partnership Act. When I say it may be registered, it may not be registered also. May includes may not. So what are your features of partnership? One is it is an agreement. 2 or more persons, one agreement should be there between 2 or more persons to do business, a particular objective of business, and the profits have to be shared. It's a mutual agency. Each partner becomes an agent for the other partner and for all the partners also. So whatever they work they do, whatever action they do has an impact on the other partners also. And they are unlimitedly liable, individually unlimitedly liable. Fate is a going concern. As long as the partners are together, it is a going concern. Otherwise, the future becomes uncertain. Succession of ownership. Again, if a partner dies, automatically the legal heirs don't become partners. So there is a question mark on succession also. Other form of business that we are going to be discussing is limited liability partnership, which is a later form which has just come recently under the Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2009. So here the liability of the partners is limited. That is the key. Unlike your Partnership Act partnership, where the liability of the partners is unlimited, here it is limited. Who regulates this? Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Just like your companies, LLPs are also being regulated. The key part of this is there are some people called designated partners, which they are the people who run the business, they are the people who are totally liable. Upon incorporation, it becomes a separate legal entity like your company. So how do you understand LLP? Basically just think of it that way. It is a hybrid form, that is a combination of a company and a partnership, and it has got the best of both the things. So it has got limited liability, and incorporation is mandatory, which is like a company, right? It's a legal entity separate from the partners, which is like a company. Minimum 2 partners are required. No limit on maximum number of partners, just like a company. ROC administers it, and every partner of LLP is only the agent of the firm. Then we come to the company form of business. Company form of business, it has to be established under the Companies Act, and it is ROC takes care of it. So how do you work? It is a body corporate, it is incorporated under Companies Act, it is independent of its members, it exists only in law, so it's called artificial juridical person, and it has got a distinct name, it has got an address, and it has got an identification number. SIN, what we call corporate identity number. It is an association of minimum 2 or more persons. However, today we have what we call as a one-person company where only one person becomes a member. It also provides for incorporation of a small company, and it also provides for incorporation of a dormant company. These are two new kinds of entities which are there in Companies Act 2013 with very specific purposes. Small company for those like small scale enterprises are being recognized, and then dormant companies for tomorrow you want to do some activity, today you purchase a land. Example I'll give you is of a real estate business. You purchase huge tracts of land, but you don't want to develop it for some time. So if you don't want to develop it for some time, you'll just keep the land in the business, isn't it? So it's dormant till you start the project, it doesn't become active. So that kind of company is also being recognized, and there are certain specific benefits given to small companies and dormant companies. So there is an elaborate system how you function as a corporate. Also, if you go to the public for money, then how do you regulate? So SEBI regulates that, and Companies Act regulates all companies, right? Then company has to file a memorandum and articles of association in the time of incorporation. What is memorandum of association? It tells you exactly what the company can do or cannot do. Articles of association tells you how to manage the company, internally how to manage the company. Company, when it goes to the public for its money, what it will do? It will ask for money from the public through a document called a prospectus. Now this prospectus, how you have to issue, what it should contain, all that is specifically stated in the Companies Act as well as in the, not SEBI Act, it is actually SEBI regulation. And requirement of statutory audit is there. All companies have to mandatorily audit the accounts of the company. Quarterly results also publication is required in case it is a listed company. It's not required for other companies. That is listed means, that means you have asked the public for money and you have listed your shares on the stock exchange. SEBI oversees the subsequent trading of the shares also, and there is a listing agreement that the company is required to enter into before putting up their stock for or shares for trading in the stock exchange. Corporate governance norms are there. What is corporate governance? Basically, you are talking about transparency, disclosure, and your accountability and responsibility, the four corners of corporate governance, which are essential for any company, especially those companies which are taken money from the public. So those norms are very stringent. They are there in Companies Act and they are there in SEBI regulations also. SEBI comes into the picture only when you take money from the public. Publicly traded listed companies have to meet the stringent criteria of both Companies Act as well as the SEBI regulations. Therefore, it increases the cost of compliance. However, if you go for a private company, you don't take money from the public, you have a lot of flexibility and you don't have that many compliances. There are lots of privileges given to the private companies because they don't take money from the public. So, lots of things are allowed for private limited companies. There are features of private limited and public limited companies which I'll tell you in brief. One is minimum number of members in private limited is 2, in public limited is 7. Maximum number of members in private limited is 200, excluding past and present employees. In public limited there is no maximum number. Restriction on transfer of shares is the norm in private limited company. You have to put it in your articles as one of the points. Public limited company, there is no restriction on transfer of shares. Minimum number of directors in private is 2, public is 3. Private companies are exempted from constituting many of the committees of board of directors which are essential for public limited. Like which committees? You have your audit committee, your CSR committee, your stakeholder committee, nomination remuneration committee. A lot of committees are there which you have to compulsorily create in case of public limited companies. That completes your this particular chapter. Thank you.